We can call the order here at 2:02.
I'm happy to take the notes.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, you handled last time, so thank you for that.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay. And I'm probably just not seeing them, but I couldn't find the minutes from the last meeting, Janie.
The last B and G, I'm pretty sure I did them. Just a second.
I think you did them right away.
Yeah, I was pretty confident I could find that I had them. I just couldn't find them.
Yeah,
So many minutes floating back and forth. It's kind of hard.
it was February 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, they're written up, and I hope I sent them to you.
Well,
Did I send them to
They
anybody
have-
else?
You know, Janie, I'm pretty sure I saw them. I was amazed they got out so fast. You did a great job on those. But I've got so many things here from the library.
I know,
Let me see.
could you resend?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, and while Janie's doing that, we can jump in on the main topic that we have here for discussion today, which is taking a look at the budget numbers that were shared with us by SMC and by Engberg Anderson. So I do want to get us started with if I can find the right tab to share. There we go. Okay. I do think right off the bat, we have a pretty straightforward chunk that we can subtract out from the calculations. So looking at the way that they have everything entered, they have a number of expenses down this bottom area here that we had actually not been calculating as part of our running tally for what we consider to be the cost of the project. The reason for that being when we approved the agreements with SMC and with Engberg Anderson this past fall, a good bit of the discussion centered around whether the foundation or the library would cover those costs. And the eventual agreement was that the library would cover those costs for the contract with SMC and with Engberg Anderson. That the actual expenses and for construction and furnishings for the project would be drawn from the donation made to the foundation. As a result, you know, we have a budget that has been being spent down with these expenses higher than a little bit higher than we had expected, though they are with them in mind. So in terms of looking at exactly what we're spending and the money that we're spending it with, we really shouldn't be including those numbers.
Okay, Eric, if you
because-
could, okay, that wasn't especially clear to me. So when you, at some point in time, let's just go through it line by line. So there's no questions. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, you mean line by line here in the,
Well, below the second subtotal, let's just line by line that
Mhm.
portion.
okay. Contract manager supervision. Part of the contract manager's contract, the 5,964, that is part of the agreement that the library very purposefully approved with recorded in the minutes that would be paid by the library and not would not come from the donated funds.
And
Um,
if I'm correct, that contract amount is approximately $7,000.
That was the initial estimate, but there is a, as you see here below for the contract manager fee, which is the next one with a number, that turned out to be the multiplier. We expected that number to be smaller because it's based off of the total cost of the work to be done. So we ended up ultimately looking at those two lines, which are the construction fee for the construction manager. That in total ended up being more than we expected, in part because of the higher overall cost. Though, by extension, as we lower the rest of this total and find ways to do that, then the number will automatically come down as well. So
I'm still
then
not
that
following. Okay, again, all I'm interested in is numbers, and I mean, I'm
Okay.
very, very frank.
So-
So the number one, the supervision is $5,964. Then there's a
Yep.
fee and insurance, which is $66.30, and then
Mhm.
there's
Yep.
pre-construction. So we're looking at
Mhm.
$14,000+.
yes,
And then there's a fee for Engberg Anderson, which is $8. So I
Yes.
remember
Yes.
discussion at the board meetings of two contracts, one for Engberg
Mhm.
Anderson, one for, what does CM stand for? CM is,
Stress management.
yeah. Eric, what is CM? Do we know?
construction manager.
Oh, okay, thank you. So as I recall, a discussion and an
So-
agreement that there were two expenses, both between 7,000 and 8,000, which would be managed by the library and or
Yep.
reimbursed by the foundation at some point in time. So that's 16,000. So, but it doesn't, this CM, this contract manager seems like a lot of lines and a lot of dollars adding up.
Yes. It's more than I expected, and we should ask about about those lines when Jason and Shaun join us later.
And so can you recall, or Janie or anybody, do you recall the actual amount of the original estimate which was approved by the board?
Wow, I would have to dig in old minutes to find that.
I read through again the contract with SME earlier today, specifically because reading through this, I did have questions. The only firm number that they had provided us with in the contract agreement was for the pre-construction. So it was the 3,000 we had that prevailing wage would be paid for any CM supervision visits, and the 6.75%, which we knew that was going to be applied to the that was going to be applied to the final total of the work done, to the final cost.
Okay. Well,
But the 7,000, I think, was mostly the 3,000 plus what we expected the construction manager fee to be.
okay.
I'm a little surprised by the C supervision, and I have questions about that.
Okay. Well, then, at
Because
some point in
that's-
time, after this meeting, we need to just go
Yeah.
back to our original notes and
Yeah.
see, based on their
Yeah.
conversation. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Because as that breaks out for the construction manager's supervision,
That's huge.
you know, that's like almost $1,200 a visit.
Yeah,
If you
and
break it out, I mean, it's
it-
5 visits. What is
It
what
may-
he's going to be doing here, and for how long that we're paying him that much per
Well, maybe
visit?
pause and reflect on the gentleman from, was it Highland Park, who was sort of a one-man shop who, for all these reasons, promoted himself as a contract manager, so.
Yeah.
But
So we should ask about those, but I think for the purposes of balancing the total that we have in front of us, I think the big takeaway is that of the funds that are listed here, looking at the 4 lines that we have here on this lower subtotal, the CM supervision, the CM fee and insurance, the CM pre-construction, and the Engberg Anderson fees. Those were all contracts that the library had stated in board meeting that would be covered from the library by library operating funds. So that being the case, those are pretty much a wash in terms of covering expenses. So we don't really need to factor them in terms of any balancing, and certainly don't need to consider them as far as expenses related to donated funds. So that's
Eric,
23,000. Yes.
What are the AE fees again? A/E?
Architecture and engineering.
That's what I figured. Okay.
And is that in Big Anderson?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is spot on to a T, the contract that we had signed with them. So there's no
Right.
mystery on that one.
That I remember. I guess
Yeah.
I don't totally agree with your conclusion. I have to say that at the meeting that these are not construction estimates. I agree, but these are also not the it's not the scope of expense that the board anticipated, or I should say the finance committee anticipated when the discussions took place about the library picking up funds. So we can't presume anything until we get back to finance and the board and say, look, a little surprised here, but what are we can do about this? So hopefully our conversation today will have some effect on that. But this is not where we hoped it would be.
No. And we'll talk with Jason and Shaun some more here, get some better understanding as far as why we've landed where we have. But I do think that it helps, you know, identifying those expenses as kind of a separate discussion from the rest, which is related to specifically to the work and to the project, I think is helpful in the framing. And those expenses do account for $23,594 in total.
Would you repeat that, please?
$23,594. And minus those expenses, the balance on the sheet is $95,217.
So you're talking about the bottom blue line.
Yes.
That's still pretty choke worthy.
Yes.
Actually,
Well,
makes that bottom 23,005 shocking that, 25% of this dollars out could be fees. That's just shocking. But
yeah,
let's-
and makes me wonder what we might be able to do to reduce some of the costs here.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the total amount of dollars that we have committed or received in terms of donations is 70,000. So that is the donation from Cal, which is the 50K, the $15,000 commitment from the Friends for the fireplace, plus Kathy, I am counting in the 5K donation for the letters. Though looking at the tally here, the cost for the letters looks to be 2,818. So that's probably a discussion that we need to have with that donor about the disposition of the remaining funds.
Yeah, which should be 2,182.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, if they can absolutely, hold to their 2818 figure, then there's no problem just shifting that over to the room. But we have to make sure we need a contingency on that.
That was, that's news to me. Did we get another recent donation specifically for the lettering?
Yes.
Nice.
From a very generous soul who has decades of commitment to the library.
Very
And her
nice.
husband.
Okay. So I think then we've kind of framed exactly what we're looking at. And then at this point, I think the best thing to do would be to discuss this from a couple angles. I think we should take a few minutes and go through the lines that are laid out as potential ways to reduce cost. And I think some of the other options that we might have as far as controlling costs, I think are worth discussing as well. So on that note, does anybody have any questions before we jump into that list that Shaun and Jason had sent? Okay, I think this is the one. Huzzah, I managed to find the correct tab.
Yay.
It's the little victories. Okay. So we had the one that we had already pretty much committed to, which was keeping the existing carpeting in place. I think it's one that makes a lot of sense. It's a small space and we'll get a lot better economy of scale when we inevitably, sometime inside the next few years here, have to replace all the carpeting on the main floor. So that one seems pretty settled. Do we want to discuss these as we go through point by point, or do we want to go through them and then discuss them as a whole?
No, let's discuss them point by point, because I don't know what a lot of them are.
Sounds good, Cal. So alternate number 2 is to eliminate at the north and east fur walls.
Okay, now what exactly does that mean?
That
It means
sort of
cats.
means that furred walls mean that they put in this fur stripping to attach drywall to. So we would drywall over the cement block and would also hide some of the electric work that would snake down the walls.
Okay,
Basically, it would just give a much warmer finish to the inside of the room, especially, if we have we'll have the south and the west walls nicely bricked and painted and hopefully some tile on them, and then you'll have these cement block walls. So I have a kind of a hard time with that one, and it blows my mind that it's 13 grand.
wait a minute.
I mean,
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. I was looking at the wrong number. 13 grand
13 grand for,
For those-
two walls
itty
of
bitty walls.
furring out. Admittedly, there are some tall walls, But 2 walls, with drywall? Wow. You
And
know,
does
the
that
labor,
include-
labor costs must be terrible, and I know lumber has gone up, but we're not talking much lumber. I mean, there are these little, the furring strips, I'm not even sure they're wood. Furring strips are often metal these days, aren't they?
Wait a minute, does this include not only the furring strips, but also the drywall? Or is this just for the furring strips?
I think it's both.
I think
Oh.
it's the whole thing, yeah. It would
All
be,
right.
you know, whatever the strips are, installing a drywall, and then taping and plastering.
I would think we could get a local guy to do it for less than that.
Here's the problem with that, Cal, is that anytime we would get somebody to do something like this, we would have to go through the dog and pony show of sending it out for bids.
Bid,
because we're,
Yeah,
you
okay.
know. Although
Well,
Eric, can we get away, since we're doing this with donation funds rather than public tax money funds? I'm wondering if we could use that as a
Nope.
I don't know, wiggle room to get out of that rule.
here's the one thing that I think does afford us some wiggle room, is that while we are required to pay the prevailing wage either way,
Mhm.
I don't think there's nothing in the prevailing wage that says that we can't accept donations, including donations of service. So I had mentioned to Kathy and Cal that one thing that we I think really ought to take a look at is identifying some local, local workmen, local companies, and just talking to them to see, would you be interested in donating some of your professional skills and time to the library? We can even supply the materials. We just need somebody to, provide the skill, and see if there's anybody that's interested in doing that for the out of loyalty to the village and the opportunity to have their name splashed across as somebody that really contributed in a positive way in the community to the project. So I think that's worth taking a look at, and I am looking at and exploring all of our possible options for obtaining the work at a allowing people to donate time or money to us for this as a contractor, basically.
Yeah, I just, the only problem I could see would be Engberg Anderson's collective heads exploding when we bring in workmen that wouldn't really be directly under their supervision, and how much that would screw up our agreement with them as far as being project managers.
Well, they are here to lend their professional expertise, which means that they assist with the bid process and the creation of the bid paperwork. But the ultimate selection of who comes in and who we bring in to do the work belongs to the library. It's our project. There are contracts. We have to pay these folks. We're employing someone to be our on-site construction manager, but that responsibility does not include. It includes providing a lot of input and helping us vet people, but it doesn't include dictating who we work with.
Okay,
So
We have
these-
control over that.
good.
So then these prices are just their estimates for what they think we're gonna have to pay to get somebody to do this work. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
So what is the disadvantage of putting, let's say we decided to just sub out the drywall, which I agree sounds like an awful lot of money. So we call, I mean, what's the problem with bidding it? Do we have to go through what is it, an RFP or
Yep.
can we just call 5? Why don't we, what's there, and then are we obliged to choose one of those vendors? Is that, I mean, what's the disadvantage of doing that?
I don't think there's any inherent disadvantage to putting it out to bid that way. You know, I don't think that there's disadvantage there. I think only that there might be advantage in seeing if we could find somebody willing to donate the work
Well,
first.
I don't, of course, I don't disagree with that, but that's more speculative than calling 5 contractors and saying, what is it going to cost? And
Yep.
by putting it out to
Indeed.
bid, and we get 5, first of all, no interest, or we do. And then we have 5 estimates. If we still get somebody to donate, we're just going to reject the 5. Are we not allowed to reject an estimate if we choose to? I mean, are we bound, I guess, are we bound by one part of this RFP to go along with it, whether we want to or not?
When we go out to bid, we are required to go with the lowest responsible bidder.
Okay.
And
Okay,
what would-
so the responsible
if we
is
don't go with
definitely a qualifier.
Yeah.
It is. But we have to be able to, if we don't go with the lowest, we have to be able to verbalize why we don't think the lowest is the responsible bidder.
Well,
Okay.
To whom? The state of Illinois? I mean, who oversees?
To
this?
justify to whom? Well, there's a variety of folks that if things go sideways, you could find yourself explaining your decision-making process to. You know, there's a variety of options that are available to a contractor that feels about things. They can complain to the Department of Labor, understanding, and that we were not following the prevailing wage, and then you know, DO potentially follows up on that with us and checks to see you know, that we did indeed follow that. You know, and as always, there's always the opportunity for a really unpleasant contractor to file a civil suit with us and just skip the whole legal oversight process. These are not things that commonly happen,
Yeah, I
but
would think.
they are reasons why we try to be as above board and follow the rules as we can and show our work.
Is Jason or Engberg Anderson, are they going to go out and get 5 bids on all this? And if not, why are they exempt from that?
My understanding is that part of their contract includes their assistance on that bid project. That they would assemble the bid information so that it would be professionally assembled and spelled out what somebody needed to do, and then they would receive the bids as they came in, take a look at them, and provide their recommendations.
So, but we choose the
when we
contract?
sat down with them. Yes.
We choose, we make that decision.
Yeah.
But they probably would
They-
make recommendations, and they also,
Mhm.
this is one little part of the conversation I do remember, was that they know who to ask.
Right.
Right. So for there's a bit of an enhancement here with having Jason as the contract manager involved, but Kathy, Janie, and Cal, I suppose too. If you think back to when we redid the roof, and we had Shaun involved with us as an engineer for that project, we had a number of meetings where you know, we sat down with Shaun, and Shaun presented to us and talked about the responses that had been filed, and talked about things that had been missed, covered and not covered, and his thoughts and recommendations. And then ultimately it was the decision of the board whether to take particular actions. we had one point where we had somebody that had misfiled, and we had the option of accepting their bid, knowing full well that they would not be able to do the work for the price that they had quoted, but it would be holding them accountable for what they said that they could do, and they might have to sacrifice their bond. And there were a number of decisions that we had to take there and that we took with Shaun's guidance. The way that this is set up really kind of follows along those lines. It has the additional involvement of the contract manager providing additional input from the contract and construction side of things, but the basic setup is the same. That there's a lot of input and guidance and help through the bid process and creating the bid packets and deciphering the bids that we receive, but ultimately it's our decisions. So it could well be that when we go out to bid that we do for a number of these get lower bids than they're currently projected for. That is a thing definitely that could happen. And I would say for most of these that is likely where we want to head with them, that we want to go out there and get those competitive bids. Unless we can find somebody that's willing to donate their time and talent.
How likely is it that the bids would come in?
I honestly don't know. I don't know how likely it is one way or another for the bids to come in either over or under where they're projected.
Okay.
We can ask that later too.
Yeah. I think that's a good question to ask later.
My only other comment on this topic is, have you talked to the village about who they use and the park district? Excuse me, as far as like general contracting. I mean, our roof was quite specific. Drywall is no big deal. It's just a lot of people put drywall up every day. So is there someone who does a lot of that type of work for the village, or?
Well, the village has to their advantage that they have both Mike Croak and Jeff Hansen on staff, and both of those gentlemen are engineers. So while I know that the village does bring in outside expertise on occasion, it's usually more about volume and there being more than those two gentlemen can handle.
Well, are you saying they would do
overseeing the project?
Are you saying they do the dry? I know they oversee it, and that's great. But can they recommend a drywaller that would be guarantee competitive prices because they do a lot of business in Lake Bluff? I mean, that's what I'm asking.
Maybe.
Yeah, and also, in my opinion, since they pay taxes in the town, the engineer of the village ought to be helping out the library when able to do so and willingly.
Good point.
I'm with you. We're a component unit of local government. So,
right.
I mean, anywho, so moving through our lines here. So it doesn't sound like there's a lot of potentially dropping the drywalling. 3A is to eliminate the glass doors at the casework.
Are you talking about the glass doors around the fireplace?
Yes.
Is that glass doors you're talking about?
Storage, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not the sliding door, entry door into the room?
Sliding door
That's
is
a
number
separate line
5.
further down.
Ah, okay.
3B is to substitute all casework wood veneer and put in laminate instead. 3C is to just straight up eliminate the casework.
So if that's $87.50, that's the cost of bookshelves and glass doors, that's the total of that project. And if we break that down, 2,500 are the glass doors. So we could still have casework, but without the doors, or we could have casework without the doors and laminate versus wood. Are those our options? Am I getting that right?
Yeah, Kathy,
Yeah.
that's certainly my understanding looking at it. So
Yeah.
casework all in, I think with glass doors is 8,750.
Yeah,
So you could then eliminate the glass doors on the upper portion, sub out laminate for the wood, or eliminate it altogether.
so we could potentially have pared down, we could have bookcases at the cost of 3,500, or no, 3,750.
Yes.
And then the add-on to that, the improvement would be to have wood versus laminate or to have casework. So somewhere between a low end of 3,750 for shelving up to 8,750 for the whole thing. Okay.
Yep, that's what I understand.
Yeah. So the okay, so that's the casework. Alternate 4 is to install painted drywall in lieu of the tiles that surround the fireplace face. Those would be instead of the stone tiles that we've been looking at. That's where those would be going around the fireplace. This would put drywall there instead. Alternate 5 is to eliminate the KI sliding door. This looks to be the cost of that door, so I am assuming that this would not provide for a different door going in because this looks like the cost of that door.
Except the vinyl leather, the vinyl lettering of 500 I would think would be included in that alternate 5. So, oh, it is 8,500. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yep. So, and then reducing the furniture allowance, which he has listed as a TBD. The furniture allowance listed on the page here, up and back, is $10,000. So of the 95 that we're looking at, 10,000 of that is $10,000 of that is that furniture allowance. I should probably also point out that they do have $10,000 also built in for inflation and contingency.
Well, inflation is here.
It is. It is
So-
very much here.
7%.
Yeah. So I wonder if that amount would even cover it.
Eric, I'm sure I don't want to nitpick here, but I believe the 95,217 does not include the furniture allowance.
It does. Here.
Okay, all right, because that's good, okay.
Get out of I got this Zoom window that's blocking my tabs. Here we go. So the 10,000 here is part of this 118.
Okay, and that's all a running total, okay.
Yep. So then we just subtracted these other lines around it, the 5, the 6, the 3K here, and the 8K here, but we left the 2818 in for the letters and the 10K for the furniture allowance. So that's still part of the 95.
Well, the 28 is actually off by itself. We can talk about that later, but that's because that's not the room.
It is not, no. I only mentioned it because it was one of the 2 lines down here in the bottom that, otherwise we kind of pulled out and set into their own pot the numbers in the second column, except for those 2 in particular. Okay.
Could you tell me a little bit about this glass door? Why in the world does a door cost $8,500? Is it as big as the entrance? No, it can't be. Well, I suppose it is.
No,
And
Um,
why do we want a door? Do we want a door? Are we gonna keep the door closed and people, as they enter the room, would have to open and close the door? Or is the door for when the room is being used maybe as a meeting place or something?
the short answer, Cal, is yes. Um, the longer answer is that we want to be able to offer patrons the ability to close the door so that it can be used most effectively as a quiet reading space.
Okay,
And generally, for a quiet reading space, quiet reading room, there is a door there so that it can be closed off a little bit from the rest of the facilities. The setup that we would have with that space, being closed off, but also being glass, so that it was still visually still very visible, that it wasn't like
Yeah.
isolated.
Yeah.
So somebody could get in there and do wacky or crazy stuff is pretty typical as well. Warren, Newport, Deerfield, Cook Memorial, I think too, all follow that setup where they have the space there. You can see everything in there that's going on and people chilling out, but the sound is muffled.
okay.
So that's the reason for having a door. We had talked about doing a sliding door. I don't think it has to be a sliding door. And we should probably talk to Shaun and Jason about what that could look like as just a door rather than a sliding door.
Yeah,
I think
except that
part of
if-
why we had talked to them was the concerns about the space, because it would have to open into the room, and we were wondering, like, well, that seems like that could take up quite a footprint. If we have
Yeah.
to allow,
I agree. If you're gonna put in a door, it probably needs to be a sliding door. For a lot of reasons. But most especially because a door opening into that room would really be in the way, because that room isn't that big.
indeed.
It's
It's
just that,
opened out, is that bathroom there?
The bathroom on the other,
Yeah, it hit that,
yeah, there's,
it
yeah.
would hit that, it would block that, okay.
No, and my understanding from when we were talking about the sketches with Shaun was that the door would have to swing in.
Yes,
into
I
the room.
remember that, Eric, and I don't remember the
'Cause I-
rationale behind it, but it's some safety feature, which is sort of counterintuitive. You would think it would
Yeah, he
open
said
out
it's,
for it to be a safety feature.
he said it's code. I had specifically asked him because it seemed like a nuisance to have it swing into the space, and it seemed to run counter to what I expected as far as a safety feature, which is generally that you want the doors to swing outward, not need to be pulled inward from a space, because that facilitates people being able to get out the easiest. And you don't end
Yeah.
up with
Yeah.
my situations where people pile against the door and then get stuck there in a panic, and everybody's pushed against the door and can't get it open because they can't get the swing path clear. But apparently this is the code, so it is the code. So, but I think asking about our options as far as sliding door is worthwhile in terms of whether it has to be this particular sliding door. My sense from Shaun was that this particular sliding door was a very reputable, very nice door. So that might also mean that it's a bit more of a posh door than we necessarily need.
Would it be shatterproof?
Oh, God, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
better
we
be.
have to-
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
And it
and you know,
was-
it's not just the door. I mean, there's a whole panel
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the door, when it would open, would
Yeah.
slide against. So we're talking about two big pieces of glass, and they're gonna
Right.
be.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a good,
It's-
yeah,
it's almost like a wall or part of a wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah,
Divider.
that's a good way to look at it, Cal.
You know, one item that he did not put on his potential deductive alternative list. I believe they mentioned that the demo cost, which is number one on his estimate, would be reduced by the type of material. And I think we talked about reducing it to plastic sheeting, which is the least. And I thought he said like 1,000 to 1,500. But does anybody else remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I remember that, but I don't remember the exact reduction.
Yeah, so that really should, that should be part of the potential deductive alternatives. And it's not.
Which item is that? What's it called?
It's called
Demo.
demo, number one.
okay, let me see if I can find what he said in my notes, because I did.
Jamie, we can just ask him. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was something about putting up like a temporary drywall
Yeah,
barrier
Yes.
versus heavy duty plastic
yeah.
barrier.
Right.
And we talked about the plastic and they would come in from 6 until 10 and do their pounding and blasting. And then-
Right, right.
So it seems reasonable to at least consider.
Kathy, Cal, do you want to relay what we had discussed in terms of the furniture?
Yeah, Kathy.
Yeah, Cal and Eric and I met yesterday, had a lovely visit and looked at materials and the carpeting, which we thought would be a safe bet to hold on to for a while. And we discussed furniture. And Bonnie, actually, I have to compliment you on your recommendation the other day about looking into providers of used business, good quality used business. That was a great idea. But the three of us sat yesterday and brainstormed, and Eric did some moving of items around, and we've discovered that there's 4 matching chairs, upholstered chairs, which need a good cleaning. They're yellow and there's a print, and there's 2 by the door going outdoors on the first floor. There's 2 upstairs. They're very comfortable chairs. I've sat in them a lot upstairs. So we were thinking we could put those in the Stroh reading room to begin with. Then there are 2 chairs which are in the vestibule, which are a darker, kind of, it looks like a library print fabric. Those would go back upstairs to where we're taking 2 chairs. So we'd be keeping 6 pieces of library furniture, getting them cleaned, relocating them and repurposing in the library, which would eliminate any furniture budget for the time being. We also, after Eric left, Cal and I were talking about the wall adjacent to the staff room of keeping some kind of something similar to what is there right now, which is just seating for 3 laptops, work sort of thing. But Bonnie, I thought of all your strong opinion about having more workspace in the library for people who come or working at home and need a space to come in and have laptop paperwork and so forth. Eric can fill us in at another time. We're going to have a little laptop area by the old entrance, but the more of that we have, the more the availability, the better. So, and that could all be not necessarily long term, but it would get us where we need right now. It would save the money that we don't have, and it could encourage donors down the road to update the furniture in there. So I think Cal agreed, and Eric was open to it, just making those adjustments. It's a sustainable philosophy, which I think speaks well for the library, to use what we have. And then long-term planning when we are really comfortable, know what's best to make, long-term investments in the furniture if we wish to. So I think, Cal, is it fair to say that our recommendation would be just to not make any furniture purchases at this time?
Yes, right. And also not change the carpeting.
That's right.
Well, I think with the furnishing that at minimum, we would need to take a look at the chairs and table for the space by the door there, the study space, because that we don't really have anything in-house to fill.
You mean
that
in the way of tables? Are you referring
Correct.
specifically to tables?
Yes,
Okay.
table, and then there's projected to be two study chairs at the table, and that we don't really have anything that would conceivably fit in that space. I do think that there is good advantage to be had in potentially putting new furniture in the space. I think that would show it to best advantage. So I think that it's definitely something we should take a look at as a possibility, but I think at this point, let's talk to Shaun and Jason and keep our options open.
Can I provide some feedback on that?
Sure.
So we have gotten some specific patron feedback about those chairs, specifically people saying that they do not want to sit in them because they look gross and are beat up. And the other thing that I was kind of concerned about was whenever we've talked about a quiet reading space, both in terms of staff conversations, board conversations, as well as feedback that we've gotten from patrons, the feedback that keeps coming back is that they want comfortable chairs in there. So I would be a little bit concerned about the message that might send, that like we weren't listening or that we weren't prioritizing what people were specifically asking for. And I mean, it is the purpose of the room is to go in and sit. So I do think that there would be a lot of value in prioritizing that specifically. The other thought I had was the Friends have specifically asked us for more projects recently. One possibility could be to offer them the opportunity to sponsor the lounge chairs, which would pair nicely with the donation that they've already made, just in terms of like a theme. So I wanted to throw that out there as well.
Martha, we thoroughly discussed the possibility of that yesterday confidentially.
Okay.
And thinking that if we were to, first of all, we have a $95,000 project with $70,000, actually $68,000. So that poses a very clear problem, and something's got to give. Some villagers, rather than going over cost, some villagers might applaud us on reusing for the time being versus replacing. Cal and Eric and I we also hope that might encourage donors to take on that specific project, most specifically the Friends. It's exactly their kind of thing. However, we feel as though we've made a big ask this year, and frankly, we just don't want to. We want to tread lightly. I could be wrong, and maybe they'd love the opportunity, but it wasn't. I would say that they graciously accepted the opportunity to donate the fireplace, but they didn't just jump at the opportunity. So to suddenly then add to it, I don't know. I mean, it's something we can continue to talk about, and we certainly don't have to decide that today. And if we have a backup plan, we're in good shape. But what is it? You don't want to. You don't want to kick a gift horse in the mouth, sort of a situation. I can certainly see in a year or two that would be an ideal follow-up to the Friends. But right now, we just don't want to wear out our welcome with the friends. So.
I,
You know, one other thing that I was just thinking, Martha, I don't know which chairs you're talking about. I know the one that's right in the front entry hall, to the right of the entrance into the library property. It has sort of a library book print on it.
Yes.
But we have two, not one, but two interior design firms just a little bit west of the library that could possibly be approached as, would you be interested in reupholstering, redoing these chairs as a tax deduction / gift to the Lake Bluff Library? And I don't know if the chairs are even worth putting that kind of effort into.
They are durable furniture that was built and intended for use in a public space. So structurally, they're not in bad shape. I do think that we had discussed that they would, if moved into the new space, need at least some
Slip covers.
professional upholstery cleaning.
Yeah.
yeah, not so much the ones that are out in the entryway, those ones with the library print. They're dark colors and they don't show soil, but the yellow, the ones upholstered in yellow material that are at the old entrance to the library, and I understand also there's two more of them upstairs in front of that window, they would need to be cleaned. I have something to say though about the comfort of chairs. The comfort of chairs is a very individual thing. What's comfortable for me may be awful for somebody else, and what's good for someone else. For instance, as we get older, it's harder to get out of chairs that are low seated. If they have arms, that does help, but still, some chairs have such a low seat that it becomes a problem getting out of them. Also, for someone who weighs 150 pounds, the width of the chair isn't too much of a problem. For somebody who weighs 280 pounds, the width of the chair is a problem. So I don't know how we factor comfort in. I think we probably have to decide on a few things like the height of the seat and whether it has arms or not, and that it not be on coasters, because you could go sliding around the library. But other than that, comfort, I don't know how you decide what's all the way comfortable for everybody. I don't know how to do that.
Okay. Well, jumping in here, we are up to 3 o'clock and we got our folks from our contractors starting to show up in the waiting room here. Is there anything else that we want to discuss here before we start inviting folks in? I have been making a list of questions here for them as we've been going along. So I do think this has been a good, productive conversation.
Hey, Eric, it's Bonnie. I do have one thing. I would be interested in knowing if Engberg Anderson would be willing to partner with the library on targeted requests for donations, I guess, in kind. As Jeannie mentioned, the interior design firms or some of the construction firms who we see present in Lake Bluff when they, hang out their shingle into a project. There might even be a construction firm who's trying to break into Lake Bluff, who might be willing to donate to the library and hopefully come with good references as well. So I think it would be interesting to ask, is it just Shaun who's coming in, or do we have SMC joining us as well?
Yeah, right now the Jason is the one in the waiting room. So
Mhm.
Shaun, I'm sure, will be a moment.
So it's not a particular line item. It's rather a way of working together that we'd like to explore.
Yes.
Eric, have you discussed this with Melissa?
Discussed
Going out
the,
looking for providers of services as a donation to the library?
I really just, had initially verbalized that meeting yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to catch up with Melissa about that. But I know that we have at times had good luck with going out and finding those sorts of partners in the community. For instance, I know right now that we're embarking on a partnership with, was it Davy Landscaping? Is that the right name, Martha? Does that sound
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, Davy Landscaping.
Who's giving us quite a lot of support and money to get a garden in place on the property for summer reading club, to go with our summer reading club theme, and and garden as a seed exchange as well. We've had some luck.
Yeah,
on that
no,
in the
it's a
past.
great idea. Even if we targeted one trade, it would become a big chore for someone at the library to have to oversee several trades coming in, and you can't really designate timing.
Yes.
And this work requires timing with electricians and so on and so forth. But it's certainly something to explore.
Yeah.
We should look for a glass door company.
Well, we ought to find out if there's a glass door company in Lake
We have
Bluff.
Dorma is here in Lake Bluff, I believe. They do doors.
I know there used to be a door company here.
If there's a local company and they will press.
Okay, we're at 3:05 here, so I should really let these folks in.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Here's Jason. Jason, hello.
Hello, Jason.
Jason? I'm not frozen, right?
No.
No, you're not frozen.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure Shaun will be with us here in a moment. In the meantime, I believe Janie sent out the minutes, so we can approve those. Let me bring those up. Oh, Microsoft Word, there we go. Why not? Okay. There we are. Okay. Too many tabs. So here we have the thrilling minutes from our meeting last week, last Thursday at 4 p.m. as prepared by Janie. So feel free to take a minute to look, questions, comments, etc. And if none, then I would look for a motion to approve.
Yeah, I see that I misspelled Jason's name, but
Yeah, I just noticed that as well.
fixed already.
Yeah, I'm fixing it. And I'm just going to do.
And who is Shaul? S-H-A-U-L. Who's that?
That's Bonnie.
That's me, Cal.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I can find them all easily because Word helpfully flagged them all as potentially misspelled words. Okay, so that's been fixed. Other notes? Motion to approve.
I so move.
All right, and Cal, you're not on here.
I
You're not a
I so
trustee
move.
anymore, Cal.
I'm just trying to hurry things
Bonnie
along.
moves.
I so moved to
It's force
approve.
a habit.
Yeah, right.
Bonnie had moved, so Kathy,
then
may
I
I put you
second.
down as the second?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Which would be something since there's only 3 of you and I already heard 3 ayes. So minutes are approved. Okay. And okay, maybe Jason got disconnected here. He's attempting to get back in. So, Jason, you with us?
I am. How are you?
hello.
Doing all right.
Good.
Shaun hasn't joined us yet. Do you know if he'll be able? His understanding was he would be popping in at 3.
Yeah, I thought I know he had a back-to-back meeting, but I think he just got out of that. So I expect him any
Okay.
minute now.
Okay. Sounds good.
So
Well, I think I'll go over, if he'll be here in a minute or two, it would be good to have both of you here when we get into questions as far as
Sure.
that we have on some of the estimates.
Yep.
So I have one other item that I want to give the Building and Grounds Committee a quick update on, which is the aforementioned gardens. So obviously there's not too many spaces where those would really go on library property. So the 2 spaces under consideration are alongside the building where the walkway for the old entrance is, the long ramp leading up to the old door. Also potentially looking at the space next to the green space next to the bur oak that stands where you go down the stairs into the spruce room on the back door exit. So those are the 2 spaces that we're looking at. Jillian and Eliza are putting together a plan and proposal, and we'll be working with and talking to Croak and Jeff Hansen over at Village Hall so that we cover everything that we need to in terms of getting approvals. And I anticipate having a specific proposal for this committee at some point in the future. So I just wanted to give you guys an update here on that today, so that when the proposal got in front of you, it wasn't like coming out of the blue.
And this has something to do with the reading club?
Yes, gardening is going to be our theme for the summer reading club. So we're going to
Nice.
have some interactive gardening activities that will involve those. We'll have grow lights inside and getting plants started here in the winter. It's gonna be nice. I might bring in some of my pumpkin seeds or tomato seeds that I can't quite fit under the grow light at home and just kind of like sneak them in on the corner. So
Is this going to be a permanent
but
garden
Jim-
spot or just for this project?
it would be a raised garden bed so that it would be there potentially as long as we needed it to be.
Okay,
So if we wanted to move it, we could do so, but wanted to have it for additional years, we could do that too.
Yeah.
So
I
we
think-
would have options.
I'll just throw in one suggestion or one observation. You got to be careful about make sure you have water. There's a lot of shade under that tree. The
Yes.
garden, which is only about a foot deep or foot wide at the wall, the brick wall, that's actually what Thomas Jefferson did to Monticello. It creates a microclimate, and you're going to get west sun. It's going to be warm and toasty, and you're going to grow tomatoes and veggies like you wouldn't believe. It's a great spot for it.
I'm thinking
That
it's
is good to keep in
foliar.
mind.
Could somebody please plant a mustard seed?
Okay. We can look into mustard.
Well,
Or-
the reason I'm interested in a mustard seed is because I've always wondered about that passage in the Bible where Christ says the mustard seed is the tiniest of seeds, but it grows into the biggest thing that all the birds around can live in. So I'm kind of interested in just how big a mustard seed can get the
Okay.
plant grow.
Well, we will take that into consideration, Cal, and we
Okay,
will
good.
see if mustard might be able to be factored into the garden,
It just might cover up that whole end of the library.
or maybe we'll just get some seeds for the seed exchange, because then we would have seeds for you,
There you
which would
go.
only be one half of the equation, but maybe give you some idea.
Maybe we should go
Okay.
ahead and get started since we're still
Yeah,
waiting.
that's what I was thinking.
Suppose so here. Hopefully Shaun will join us here shortly. So I'm going to bring up on screen share again the oops. The sheet that we had received. Okay. So we had a chance to individually look through this, and we've discussed a bit as well. So in no particular order, just kind of jumping in on some questions that we had related to the expenses.
Sure.
The right at the top, the demo, which and then the temporary partitions, the floor protection. I guess we had thought that the demo was intended to be the temporary floor partition. And then we had
I
talked
still
about-
I still left in the more robust, so I can reduce that line item like we discussed in half.
Okay.
The demo has some electrical portion to it and some coring of the brick wall as well into it.
Okay.
And then just some miscellaneous, just getting the space right. It's not a bunch, but it's
Okay.
most of it's in the electrician, or the electrical, and the coring is another substantial portion of it.
Okay, that's good to know. So the one that would get halved would be the 1,500 for the temporary partitions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think we would probably like to do that.
Perfect.
Kathy, Cal, Janie, Bonnie, jump in if you disagree with me, or if I'm misconstruing our discussion earlier.
So tell me again what's gonna happen? What are you having? Or cutting in?
Well, there's, right now, the current proposal includes putting up a temporary drywall area partition to
With a door.
really, right, to really very efficiently close off the space where the work is going to be done. The alternative would be to, at a lower cost, just do some work with some heavy duty, it sounds like tarps and things of that nature.
How much
That would
would
not
that
provide
reduce?
as much sound insulation.
Yeah, but how much would it reduce the cost?
$750.
So it'd be $750.
That item he's got highlighted would just go in half.
It's like half the cost, right?
Yes.
Well, that would be okay with me, but then I am not sitting behind the library desk trying to deal with people, so. With noise,
Mhm.
I don't know. Eric, I think maybe you should, what do you think about that?
You know, my understanding is that we're really aiming to try and get as much of the work done, particularly the loud work, as we can done when
Before the library
is
opens?
not open. Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe 7 o'clock is the magic hour when contractors are allowed to start work in the village.
Okay,
And that's a solid 3 hours before we even open our doors. So I think that while there's a good portion of me that looks at that and thinks like, you know, let's absolutely lean into that. I think the reality probably is that with the amount of time that we have outside library operations, that we're probably going to be okay. That there's not going to be too many days where sound is an issue while we're open.
okay.
I think that's most likely. Jason, if I am wildly underestimating the sound levels that'll be involved.
I mean,
in
it'll
this,
be disruption. It'll be disruption, you know, of screw guns going, you know, just when they're zipping drywall on, a little bit of hammer and hitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, the you know, and then any of the real loud stuff, if it does go beyond, we'll try to coordinate that. So maybe we're a chance to get in earlier, or maybe we just, you know, have like a delayed start potentially is another option. I guess the concern is not as much the sound, but more your proximity to the space to the front desk isn't too far. So my concern, if this was in the basement in the back of the library, you got people that would just hang out back there and you wouldn't be able to keep track of them in and out. Just the front desk would just, you know, need to make sure, you know, after hours is kind of keeping people out of there but you know, because you're so close to the front desk, I don't think I'd be too concerned about that at this point.
okay,
Okay, good.
that is a good point in terms of the security. Yeah, we would definitely.
You just have you just have
wandering
the heightened sense of, you know, it just checking into there, making sure no one's. That's all.
So I think we should downgrade then to a plastic curtain.
Yeah, so let's go with the change there on the partitions. And then we had a question on the site visits.
Yeah.
As to you know, how many we needed, if we needed all 5, and what went into those, since it seems like a pretty good you know, for 5 visits, it seems like a pretty decent sized
Yeah, that's about
budget line there.
that's about 40 hours. So that'd be, you know, coming in, making phone calls, getting other trades set up. You know, so it's about a day a week during construction is what that equates to.
So is this current number an estimate? And then we would be, the actual number would be, billed as time spent. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I mean, it could be taken as an allowance, I guess, but based on the schedule, obviously if we reduce some of the scope and like able to cut a week off the schedule, it'll go down a fifth,
Okay.
stuff like that. So,
Well,
that's just based on what we currently kind of are estimating. Obviously it's a budget, and it will be refined as, if the scope gets refined or so on and so forth.
So,
okay.
Jason, you're saying that the supervision, this is your time, and how long is a supervision visit? Are you there for the day?
What's that?
Are you there for the day or?
I kind of with my in jobs of this scale, typically I usually spend about a week's worth of time. So I definitely will be on site probably about a half an hour, or not half an hour and a half a day, coordinating, checking on things. And then throughout the week, I'll also be making phone calls and, make sure people are set up, making sure inspections are called, scheduling inspections, scheduling who I need to for that. So that's just kind of what that equates to. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and then Eric, do you mind if I jump up to the next item? So we're paying you to be your supervisor. Then we get into the CM fee and insurance. I understand what insurance is. What is that? What does the fee include over and above what your services are?
The fee is just what it's typically the fee is our overhead and profit, the kind of our typical percentage that we put on a project like this on top of that. So it's just the fee that's part of the contract.
And then CM.
So,
go ahead, Eric.
The CM fee, the 6.75%, that I would assume is based off of the projected estimate. When I did the math on that, it looks like that 6630 is based off of an assumption of $8,222, which kind of leaves me wondering, what number the 6.75% is applied.
Yeah, I'll double check my math, but it should be everything from the subtotal up. But I'll refine it. It's not good. It's 6.75, so it's not going to be drastic up or down. But we'll dial it. Yeah. It should be marking up the letters because we'll be coordinating some of that work. Should be marking up the contingency, that 82,000. Stuff like that, but again, it's not. So the subtotal on up those would be the items that it would be applied to. Yes, it should be that, and I shouldn't be marking up supervision. I shouldn't be marking up any permit costs because they're not. I shouldn't be marking up, and probably the dimensional letters because we will be coordinating that work, hiring those people. So the subtotal plus the 2818. Yeah. So when I make the correction and reduce to 750, that'll obviously change that multiplier, and then I will double check the spreadsheet to make sure that is in fact correct. Okay. Well, looking at the math there and dividing the 6630 by the 0.0675 to reverse the process there, reverse the math. It definitely comes out to 98,200 right now. So, which left me a little confused because that seemed to be like it might include some of the some of the construction management or engineering fees. It shouldn't include that. Let me make sure it doesn't mark up the furniture allowance because I don't see a need for us
Yeah.
to be much involved in that. So let me double check that might be where
Okay.
the difference, part of the difference
Okay.
lies in. So I'll clean that up.
That would be good, though.
Mhm.
My understanding of that construction manager fee is that ultimately, we'll have a final tally of expenses at the end that that will be applied to, and then that's how we'll get the final number.
Yeah,
Versus,
correct.
yeah. And for the construction manager supervision, it would help us there to, if you could follow up with us with just a quick email as far as exactly how that one's calculated.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounded like there was.
Yeah, it's about
might
40 hours
potentially
at a
be-
project manager's fee.
Okay.
And then the fees are based off the contract. So,
Okay. But I think the big thing that we would want to know would be if we're paying a certain amount with an understanding that the work will be provided, or if we're going to be billed at the end based off timesheets and work performed.
okay.
I think that would be good if we could, know which one we've got up front.
Not a problem.
So, but I kind of jumped in there, Kathy. Did you have another thread that you wanted to jump? Did I freeze? I think I froze.
Oh, Kathy, you're on mute.
My fault. It's my fault. I apologize. The CM pre-construction, is that what we're doing now? Or is
Yes, that's correct. That's that'll bring the pre-constructions, just a lump sum fee just for us, budgeting meetings, and then also just, actually performing the buyout. And then the supervision takes over once the buyout's done.
what is a buyout?
The buyout is when we get pricing on all this stuff,
Okay.
on all the above line items.
So what I
Eric, I believe you have frozen now.
Yeah, he'll come and go, but then starts up acting up. You, Eric?
I got disconnected.
Oops.
There you
Okay, I'm back.
Oh, you found Shaun.
Yep, got Shaun too, which is good. I know you and I had talked about the drywall and the silencing that we had discussed potentially putting in on the wall that is the eastern wall in that room, the one between the staff room and the room where the work's going to be done. So, and we had discussed that might be where we could potentially just do the drywall, but then doing the silencing layer to that as well. Does this sound, in my not construction at all vernacular, accurate?
Eric, who are you talking to? I
was trying to talk to Shaun. Shaun?
Yes, I can hear you. I just want to double check.
Okay.
Yeah, we were going to put the acoustic band insulation. I talked with
That's what it's
Jason.
called.
We were able to skinny up the wall a little bit without hurting any of the construction. But yes, we were going to put up drywall, some framing, acoustic band insulation between the staff and the main room.
Okay.
Was your question to eliminate that, or?
We have been talking about that possibility. The overall, the sound isn't a huge issue. between the two spaces. There is some leak that happens at times. But it's not a like all the time everyday problem. What would that potentially do to that cost of that line for the furring if we didn't do the acoustic panels?
Are you, so just pulling the blankets out? I don't think those are, okay, Jason, I don't think those are a huge cost in that wall.
Pretty minimal. The time and money is in more the actually installing the studs and drywall and then finishing the drywall.
The acoustic blankets are a
Just
lot like
installation.
bad insulation. So really it's just someone kind of putting them up.
And then putting the drywall on.
Yeah.
So it's mostly material is what it would be, and it's nothing substantial. I could, get you an idea, I mean, we're talking hundreds of dollars. I'm thinking that nothing's that, we're not talking any big chunks here.
Okay, so the cost would be primarily in the materials, and it sounds like the cost on that would not be too substantial. It might still be interesting to be able to take a look and see what that cost would be.
Okay.
In terms of
from both walls.
We're doing.
Jason, yeah, I did not have it on the north wall.
Yeah, just on the east one.
So when in our drywall walls, just so I speak a little bit for Jason here, but your main cost is in the drywall part and the mudding and the taping, because those are the time. That's what people. That's the labor. It's labor intensive work, and you have to put it on and then you have to leave because it's got to dry. And you got to come back and sand it and do it again. So that's really where the big bulk of the labor is on that.
Right. Okay, and I suppose I lost my, yes, Kathy, go.
We had kind of probably the longest conversation in our earlier meeting about the cost of the drywall. It still struck a lot of us as a hefty number. And is how flexible when you go out for bids, can you, what we'd like to do is get the best, least costly drywall expenditure on this list if we choose to do it. Are you thinking that's a pretty firm number, or are you thinking that that's a pretty big range there, or what's your experience with that?
I mean, it's pretty much man hours and labor, and I don't anticipate that thing changing. It might go down a little bit, but I don't think anything substantial.
Okay.
I mean, that's furring out all the walls. It's building that chase for the fireplace. There's a bunch of fire treated blocking and.
Why do we need noise prevention on that wall behind which are the offices for the librarians? Who's going to make all the noise? It's not going to be in the reading room. Are the offices? Do we really need that?
Well, it doesn't sound like it would be a big savings, Cal, so I don't know that we'll dig into that question too much. Okay. Sometimes there are meetings and things that happen in the staff room. So contrary to popular opinion, librarians can sometimes have noisy meetings.
So you are a rowdy bunch after all.
Well, I mean, I don't want to misrepresent the group while we got Katie and Martha here at the meeting, but rowdy is probably an exaggeration, but sometimes there's lively meetings that happen.
Okay.
And that noise can carry through.
Okay.
Hey, Eric, it's Bonnie. I've got a question for Shaun and Jason about the drywall, because Jason, I
Fire
think it was
away.
you. Thank you. Jason, I think it was you who said that the that 13,000 rough number is includes some prep work you have to do on the brick wall for to install the fireplace. And
Yes.
clearly the nature of this conversation is, how do we skinny down this budget and still deliver a high quality reading room, right? So is it possible either today or maybe between now our next meeting to say, okay, if you don't drywall the north and the east walls, this is what you would save, because it's not removing 13,694. I think that's the number. Yeah. It sounds like there's something that you're doing to prep the fireplace wall, the brick wall.
Yes, actually, I did send, Eric, did you get I sent out a list of potential alternates that actually
Yep, I've
has
got
one of
that too.
those. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So that's alternate number 2 is to take
Wow.
it. So, and
Okay.
some of that is, now that's not all drywall. Some of that is some of the electrical demo, putting the, in the cost is taking the wire mold down, putting the stuff in conduit. So there's some of that cost buried, or not buried in there. It's in there. That's why that credit is almost as much as the drywall, because some of the electrical line item comes from there. That makes sense. Because we're not
Thank you for that
reworking the
clarification.
electrical. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So if we were to choose not to drywall the 2 walls, where would right now there's plastic tubing here and there with electrical in it, I presume. Would we have to maintain that look? Or is there somewhere is there another way to conceal that necessary wiring? And so that we would have just a brick, actually, just, what is it? Well, it's the seal, the concrete things.
Yeah, CMU.
Yeah, thank you. So is that conduit going to be there if it's not covered by drywall?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I came in late. I was in another board meeting. I don't know if we want to walk through some of the cost saving things or if you've already done that on the casework and the other items.
We did a walkthrough on that earlier.
Okay.
We take a look here. Does anyone have, Kathy, Kel, Janie, Bonnie, do you have any questions on particulars? I think that we were pretty cleared as far as the drywall, and 2, then 3 being various permutations as far as the casework around the fireplace. Eliminate the glass doors in the casework, and or substitute all casework wood veneer with laminate, or in 3C eliminate it all together.
Yeah, I have a
and then-
question about that, Eric. When you say eliminate the casework and put in laminate, are you covering up the brick with something?
Well, yes, in either case, because the casework is the
I understand that, but the
little
casework is
bookcase
good.
things.
The casework is good looking. So
So
if you're covering the
Yeah.
brick with something good looking, that's one thing. But if you're covering the brick with just a blank nothing, I'd rather see
right.
the
And
brick.
I don't think their proposal is to just cover up the brick for the sake of covering up brick.
so
The-
I'll substitute all casework. Right now, there's wood veneer shown. This would be just changing it to a P-lam, which you can get a wood print laminate. You can get all sorts of different styles of laminate with that. It just won't be. It won't be the wood veneer that's currently designed. So it'll be
So-
something. It won't be the wood veneer. It's more of a laminate material.
So Jason, to clarify that, that means that if, whatever would be the surround around the fireplace opening, if we eliminated the casework, we would just end up with the brick wall with the surround around it with the fireplace opening inside of it. That's what you would see. So that, I don't know
Yeah.
why you would have to cover up the brick. That's, I guess, what I'm asking.
No, that's not. So let me just step through what alternate 3A is just taking
Okay.
off the doors. Alternate 3B is substituting the current casework with a laminate. So
Yeah.
just a straight up material substitution. And alternate C, if you add all three of those together, it equals the laminate or the carpentry or the casework cost that is in the previous spreadsheet. So
There would be no bookshelves at all.
correct. Well, yeah, if you took all three of those.
Yeah.
But if you only took two, you have bookshelves. If you just took 3A, you would have bookshelves with no glass doors.
Gotcha.
So if the bookshelves, the options are veneer or laminate, what is the material of the shelving?
So laminate there's wood behind it. It's a wood-based product with a basic, I mean, 90% of everything you probably see today is laminate based, but it's a wood substrate. It's just the veneer itself is more expensive than a laminate is. And usually that comes into finishing, mainly finishing, because you've got to stain a wood veneer typically to the color you want, where laminate comes in the color you want. But either of them are thin films that go over like a wood substrate.
Is there one that's more durable or less durable than?
I would say people consider laminate a little bit more durable because I don't know, I mean, wood is, you dent wood, you scratch wood, it's a veneer is thin. See, it's not like you can sand it down.
Yeah.
If you sand it down, you're going to eliminate it.
Yeah.
So people like wood veneer is usually used more in a classical type of furniture situation, and laminate is used more in a more modern day furniture is laminate based. But
Which one of them tends to peel off with age?
That would be the
Uh,
laminate, wouldn't it?
laminates have come undone. Typically it's smaller, like edges, like your desk is only like an
Yes,
inch,
yeah.
like an inch tall. That's where that can come off. Usually a big sheet like a door, like your cabinets in your kitchen are probably laminate. It's a common material that's used. That the bigger the sheet, the less it comes off because there's more adhesive. We do laminate almost all the time. We do wood veneer in certain areas. You had some trim work on here, and trim work usually lends itself more to a wood veneer. But we had some laminate, like the cabinet doors are laminate. It'd be a laminate to match the wood veneer.
So your original estimate of 1375 is carpentry and casework that would be veneer. And so by reducing that to laminate, there's a $2,500 savings.
Yes.
But we're really not sacrificing durability or look, it sounds like. Okay.
Shaun, I can think the only biggest concern would probably be the edges, right? To finish the edges off or make them more proud, I guess. Sometimes you go with a PVC edge or something, but I'll let.
Right. I'd walk through the design. I'd walk through all the details with you, Jason, and I'd probably say, just for example, I would want to look at how we would be finishing. I'm looking at a rendering of the space, but around the fireplace on each side, we have some wood trim. It's how we're finishing out the tile. Those two things might need to stay veneer, just because I'm not sure how the laminate would look there. But I think if we're confident we can get the laminate to work there, then I don't have any issues.
Okay. Run it by the mill worker.
I've had some problem with laminate on cupboards. So I'm a little bit leery of laminate. But maybe things have improved since my cupboards were put in.
I've had problems with wood veneer too, so,
Yeah, so
unless it's solid wood, those can be issues.
what do the librarians think about having shelves being open rather than with glass doors?
Well, Katie and Martha can jump in here. My initial reaction is that our most likely primary use for those would be as a collection display. And it would be collections that belong to other people in the community that then we would make available the display space like we used to do with the display cabinet in the spruce room.
So would those
Which
glass doors have locks on them then?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Which we couldn't do that without the and conversely, I suppose we could put some knickknacks and things there, but I'm not really sure what what the primary use necessarily for those would be from a practical sense if we didn't have the doors on them.
That would be my concern. I don't know what we would do with them without the doors.
Right, because it's
I
generally
think
not. Go on, Cal.
if you're going to have those display, I guess you'd call them cases on either side of the fireplace, I really think you got to have the doors, and the doors got to have locks.
Well,
Agreed.
you have to have collections to put in though. I would have assumed a long time ago that you would, being a library, you'd put books. That's not a place for collection of any kind.
No, we've talked about that before, and because the room could potentially be used for other like programs or other people having a meeting space with the door closed, that could potentially restrict access to certain parts of the collection. It's also more out of the way on the main floor, and so having them on display would be, it would make it, my fear is that it would make it less, not as many people would either see them, or it would be more difficult to access, like if we were to move the newspapers or something in there. So I think
It would create, it'd be a weird work traffic flow thing.
Yeah. So from a collection standpoint, I think we want to avoid that. I think we would like to avoid that.
Thanks.
Yeah, just the vision of having somebody in there just, next to the fireplace, enjoying the, reading in their comfy chair, and then people continually wandering back and forth past them to browse the collection and, around the fireplace. It's not a tremendously large space in that room, so I can see that turning to be awkward for everyone involved.
The shelving below would, actually, for questions for Shaun and Jason, would the shelving below be opened, or would there be doors? If we just decided to shelve the bottom.
Right now we have two bottom cabinets. They have solid doors on them with locks.
Okay.
And that was really more of a storage space for
The librarians, yeah.
Yeah, the librarians.
Yeah, okay. And Shaun, is your somewhere it's without the glass tops, that number would be if we just maintain the shelving on the bottom, is that correct?
Without the glass doors?
Without the
glass doors, we were just taking the doors off, so we did have shelving up above.
Oh, all right.
And that's where I think, during the one of the design, I think the second design meeting, the library indicated that didn't have a lot of use to it. So that's why we added the glass doors.
So alternative 3A is shelves but no doors.
Right.
Alternative, I get B, and then C is eliminating them all. So you don't have an estimate here for just cabinets on the bottom.
I don't think
Okay.
so.
All right. All right, Eric, you want to?
Indeed. So moving on from the casework, alternate number 4 was installing the painted drywall in lieu of tile around the fireplace face. I don't know if there's any questions anybody has on that. My sense was that we were pretty not keen on that. One of the really nice polish features for the space would be the slate work on the fireplace.
Yeah, you're right about that.
All right, so alternate number 5 is the door. So looking at the door at 8,500, we had wondered what our other options door-wise might be. The sliding door is nice. It's definitely a convenient way to be able to close that space off, but being over budget and looking at what we're planning to do, what would our other potential options be in terms of doors? Is it possible to do a sliding door for less cost? Would our other doors be the more traditional variety? What have we got?
So when we did our office, we actually did the same exercise. And a solid door that we could probably get finished to match your existing doors, like your existing bathroom doors, is going to be your least expensive option. Assuming the door's open most of the time, I don't know if there's a need to have glass in it. But as soon as you put glass in that door, you increase the cost. Your sliding door is your most expensive option. So then, even if you have a door with a glass light in it, it'll save you some money, just not a tremendous amount. A solid door is going to be your lowest, is going to save you the most money. And that's actually what we ended up going with in our office to help reduce costs, was a solid swing door. So I think we'd have to contact KI to get what that was. For the offices here, I think it saved us about $1,000 a location. We had an all glass door, like basically what you have now, and to go to a solid door was about $1,000.
But is your door just closed, so there's no longer sliding?
Yeah, we have swing doors. We have a swing solid door in our wall system.
Okay, because we were saying we recall our conversation about, I guess a swing door is one that swings open, is the limited floor space in that room. We're going to swing into somebody or.
Yeah, so the area that we'd have to have in the room gets a little extended. We'd have to check it on the plans to see the area that it would affect the most is that 2-person table.
Okay.
And we'd have to make sure that we've got enough room for the door. And it's just the ADA requirements. So the accessibility code requires a certain clear area by a door. You have plenty of room on the outside of the door or on we'll call it the main library side. That's not a problem. It's just, will that clear area that's required by code interfere with our 2-person table? There's less of a clear area required with a sliding door. You save space.
And there's no way that door can swing outward. It has to swing into the room.
I think your staircase from your mezzanine is too close, but I will look. We got to make sure we can get around, like the door. We got to make sure the door doesn't interfere with the egress off of the stairs.
Okay. Then you have the bathroom that's right up against there too, on the other side.
Yeah, I'm looking at the bathroom. I think we're okay there, but I'm more concerned about that we're swinging into the clear exit path of the stairs. So I can definitely research that.
That would be great. That would be good to know. And I think that's, if we could do it that way, if we were to do a swinging door, I think that would be preferable for life safety reasons as well.
Would you prefer a glass light in the door or a solid door?
I would prefer to see some glass in the door in order to get all that sunlight to come through to the main library.
Great.
And this way, someone can look into the room and realize, oh, all the chairs are taken, or no, there's plenty of room, or there's a meeting going on, whatever.
Also, for people opening and closing the door, it's nice to be able to see what's on the other side of it.
Right. And just from the safety perspective for the building, maintaining lines of sight to spaces
Sure.
is important, since a space that is always or easily blocked off from sight by the library staff is a space where people have the opportunity to get up to stuff.
Yeah.
Which, there's always a few.
The
Could you-
door would look a lot like your door, Eric.
What door?
The door to Eric's
Office,
office.
That one.
Could you tell me, let's go back to the sliding door thing. What's it gonna slide into? A wall? I mean, what is the pocket for the sliding door made of?
There's no pocket. It's a glass sliding door on a glass wall. So
Okay.
it just slides in front of the glass wall.
And if it was a swing door, it wouldn't be a glass swing door on a glass wall, would it?
Right now, we're looking at doing a wood door with a glass light in it in a glass wall. So we keep the glass wall part of the wall. We're just changing the door from a sliding door to a swing door.
Okay. Will that not change the look of the room? I mean, as you approach the room from the main part of the library, won't that swinging door that's part wood change the look of the whole thing?
I don't know if I would say it would change the look of the whole thing. It's a different aesthetic, but it's an aesthetic that you have in your library. So there are other glass light doors in the building, and you're kind of maintaining that look. But yeah, it's going to be, there's a frame around the door, so it's not all glass. Like right now, you have an all glass sliding door and an all glass wall. Looks very open. The door will have a frame to it, so it'll be a little less visible, but still, it's still a glass door. There's still glass in the door.
Okay, before we have to make a final decision on this, is there any way you could show us a picture of what the door would look like?
Yep.
Okay.
If we have I don't want to keep wanting to late. If we have a wooden door inside the glass frame and it opens, if I'm walking in the room, I think it's opening to my left. Then is there more room on my right for the seating of those chairs if we're not sliding doors behind them?
The door was going to slide on the outside of the room.
Oh, okay.
And we'll probably have the exact same room, we'll say from left to right.
Mhm.
But it's really the depth that's the issue.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So we'll show that. I'll
Yeah.
try to make that more clear.
Okay.
And just to so you think that may save us about $1,000?
I'm gonna send a request out to KI to see what revised pricing would be with a wood door with a glass light in it, swing door, and see what they see if they'll send me a revised estimate.
And we could use the vinyl lettering on that we were already planning.
The vinyl lettering I was planning to do on the glass wall part,
Oh,
the big
okay.
window. So yeah, that won't change that at all.
Great.
We have discussed as well ways that we might control the furniture allowance, the furniture expenditures up front for this as well. So we are working on that. I don't think there's necessarily any questions that we have on that. I think, if I remember right, Isela had particular locations that she was aware of where they had excess furniture that was available, that she had mentioned a couple locations at the last meeting. And I haven't I haven't seen any follow-up email from her. If we could get from her those locations, I think that's something that we would like to take a look at.
Mhm. I'll check in with her. I believe she was reaching out to one of them because I think I overheard a call, but I'll see where she's at with that.
Good deal. No, if we could get something set up so that we could explore that opportunity and see if there's anything there that we could pursue, that would be good. Okay, one item that we had also discussed as a possibility was talking to some of our local contractors here in Lake Bluff to see if any of them might be interested in doing an in-kind donation to the library. Basically, if they might consider donating the work. So we wanted to mention that to see thoughts were on that as a possibility, and if Engberg Anderson would with us on such an undertaking where we were looking for in-kind donations.
For the donation part, I'd have to talk with Joe, because he's the one in charge of that. I don't have the authority to kind of say yes or no to something like that, but I can talk with him.
Sounds good. Bonnie, did you have any questions to tie in with that?
I guess just to be clear, what I was thinking was, how would we, if we wanted to say, reach out to some construction firms in the area and see if they would be willing to donate time, maybe materials in helping with this small renovation at the library, how would that work between Building and Grounds Committee, Shaun, Jason, and the fourth party, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, it would have to be clean, like maybe the tile or something. A lot of the stuff's pretty integral. I don't know what other clean scopes.
We were probably thinking, specifically about the installation of the drywall, which would, be the furring, the attachment, the mudding and taping, sanding process. But certainly that could, the setting of the tile around the fireplace surround could be.
The drywall would be kind of, could be challenging, potentially. Be cleaner if it, I don't know. Let me talk to John a little bit and see what his thoughts are too. Let me kind of bounce that off. I mean, like the casework maybe could be one of them potentially.
Painting.
Well, the people that we would be reaching out to would be professionals within these fields, and we would be talking to them about donating their professional skills.
Okay.
So we would not be looking to have somebody that was just somebody that had done some nice work around with drywall, their garage out back, the local handyman or anything like that.
Understood.
Yeah, things like the final finishing, so like paint, the tile, those are easy because they don't have a lot of effect on other trades. So the drywall one is a good idea, but then there's integration with the electrical and coordination with how big the fireplace box needs to be. There's a lot of kind of ins and outs of making sure that they've communicated properly with other trades. So it's, I think, trying to like pull out individual items like casework, they're just coming in and putting it in. Those make more sense. The drywall is just a harder one because it does affect a lot of different trades. It doesn't seem like it does, but it does. It affects other people, where the paint doesn't. They're just coming in and painting and leaving. Kind of like the tile work too. They're just putting it in and kind of, they don't need to coordinate with anyone really about how to put in tile.
So you mentioned the casework is one that might fit well for having someone come in and volunteer their time on that. Are there others that you think might fit for, potentially having someone, donate their professional time where it would
Eric, I think Shaun mentioned painting and
fit along
tiling.
those lines?
Yeah,
Yes.
those three are the ones that come to mind as well.
Okay.
And, signage is maybe one, the vinyl lettering, the interior dimensional signs, that's another clean. Doesn't really affect anyone. That's another one I'm just thinking of. Shaun, you have any other one you can think of?
No, I think you want the HVAC. I mean, in general, I think the HVAC, the electrical, and the drywall all need to be talking to each other and have a pretty good line of communication because they all affect one another. Yeah, I don't think any of the other ones are critical for coordination. I mean, the casework. So one of the problems I could see with the casework is making sure that they have the right dimensions. So some of this stuff needs to get field verified. So after the firebox is built or the surround, we need to verify how much. I guess we could do hold dimensions, Jason, just to make sure. But some of those things.
Yeah, that kind of coordination, I'm not as concerned about. That that's
not a big deal.
like the easiest one
Okay.
to do.
Okay.
Either do hold or they tell me a dimension and I hold it is what Shaun's referring to. Or I give them a dimension and they have a hold. So that's a pretty straightforward. Yeah, that one's pretty simple.
Which one is that? I broke up a moment there.
We were just talking through coordinating the if someone was to come in and do the casework, how that process would go, and we just came to the conclusion that that's reasonable. We can work through that. That's pretty straightforward.
Jason, would that be just installation of the casework, or would that be fabricating it and installing it?
It could be either one.
Yeah, okay.
It could be either one. Kind of depends on what the person would be willing to donate, shop time and field time.
A quick question about the thought around the finish painting. What is the height of the north wall?
Let's say the north wall.
I'm just wondering if it requires scaffolding or
Probably a probably a baker or at least a small extension ladder for at least the painting. Probably when they're doing the drywall, they'll probably have a baker goes up to 6 and they might have to stack another baker on top of that. So just to get to the working platform height. Especially because they got to go around all those beams with the drywall and make sure they don't get a bunch of mud on them. And keep that ceiling clean. So I want to say that's probably do you think that's 14 foot up, Shaun?
I think it's a little taller at the peak, but not by much. I think that 14 to 16 foot range is probably where it's at.
Okay.
So that'd be like a working platform height of around 8 to 10 feet up.
We'll get you some boxes.
OSHA compliant, please.
So if I could just jump over for a second here, and I just want to verify my understanding that the HVAC under the item listings, the HVAC at 15,455, that is my understanding is that's the cost of the fireplace and the installation. Am I correct with that?
Yes, with the gas line, there's a little bit of sheet metal work. There's a little bit of there's an existing heater that's got to get moved over to account for the new wall. There's a diffuser in the CMU wall that's got to get a little bit bigger and a brand new diffuser put on. So we got to chip a little bit of the CMU around, put a new extension out to the new wall and get a little bit more return air in there.
Okay, and then the balancing is is just sort of an unknown until it's installed, and then you need to know if that's an additional.
It's just, yeah, right now I showed it by the contingency because it's not if we need it, we'll use it. If we don't,
Yeah.
we don't. We won't.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Is Eric still there somewhere?
I am still here. Sorry, I got a call actually from Bill Hayes and wanted to jump on that quick since he seemed keen to get a hold of me. No, I think we've asked all of our questions as related to the expenses here. I think at this point, we just need to sit down as a committee and work through precisely what we're going to do so that the numbers align. That's my sense as far as where things are at. We should probably just discuss the new samples that were dropped off and any thoughts on those.
Eric, are you sharing your screen?
I'm trying to.
I wasn't sure who was. I can, so I asked.
Were you trying to share, Shaun? Okay.
Yeah, I asked my
Let me-
team to put the samples into the images, the new ones. So I wanted to share
Okay.
that.
Well, let me stop sharing and give you the superpower of screen sharing.
All right.
So you are good to go.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'll just quickly go through these. We can go back. So Acela had a couple dropped off. And right now I'm just showing these two are against the wall in the quad study area. The paint that it seemed everyone was liking. And then we have a second or a third option right here, just on a different page because they didn't all fit. But I think what you want to see is probably these images. So this is using the paint that everyone seemed to like the most. And then we have a larger tile format. This is the newer options are kind of all in that kind of not white, but kind of like a lighter kind of cream color. This is the first option. And we have the second option. This one turned out a little brighter. I think I'd look at the tile. I don't think it's actually this bright white, but it is a lighter tile.
It's beautiful. It's a
then-
beautiful rendering.
Yeah, this one's got a lot of movement in it, I think, comparatively to the other ones. And then the third tile is a little bit more subtle and I think, got a little bit more hints of brown in it. I don't want to, you got to just see the tile. So it's hard for me to describe. I'm not a Acela. But I'll go back to the individual tiles and kind of walk through. So this one's a little darker. The C is probably the darker of them. And then B, which has I think a lot more movement in it, a little bit more like a granite or a large scale
Marble look.
marble, yeah. And then the first one has a little bit of that flow to it. It's kind of a middle ground of dark and some of that I guess, stone graining. So I'll flip back.
So
I'm sorry,
Cal-
I didn't get in to look at that. Did anybody else get in to look at that yet?
Yeah, Kathy and I did. And
Cal and
wrote-
Kathy did.
Great.
Kathy wrote down some of our choices.
Yeah, Shaun, the choice that we liked was, it was option for the tile. It was option B, and on the back of it was written LOS, or maybe it's VOS.
Okay.
And it was what we both thought was a marble looking. And Cal really liked that. She wondered if the sample that we received, if there was one shade darker than that.
I will ask Acela.
And then the paint that Cal preferred was, well, actually, I'll tell you, her second choice then was option A, and it was labeled SF16. That's a tile.
Was that the teal one?
No, that's the paint, the second tile that you liked. And Eric,
Oh,
Eric, I think I sent this to you. Eric, you could just email it to Shaun. The paint that Cal preferred was, the first one was, it was called Peacock Plum. I think, and I basically were calling it teal, so I don't know if that's this one.
It sure wasn't plum color.
No, but it's the name of it was
Peacock Plus.
Oh,
Oh,
plus.
plus. Okay, all right.
Sorry. No wonder that. Sorry.
So
Makes more
Peacock
sense.
Plus was the first
And your
choice?
second choice was the Manitou Blue.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm a bit sluggish here. My internet is doing wacky things.
So let me just go back. So the marble one, and you said that's got it said LOS or VOS on the back.
VLOS.
Oh, VLOS.
Let me just go grab it.
Okay. Was the first choice. SF16 was your second choice?
Yes, but
Okay.
she wondered if the first choice came in just one shade darker.
Yep. I'll check on that. And then I got Peacock Plus as number one and Manitou Blue as a second.
That's correct.
Okay.
So as long as we're waiting for Eric, Shaun, if you look behind the people sitting up in front of the window, that area would remain glass, then there'd be a door. It almost looks like there's a black door in this. The door would just open and there would be a glass panel in the door.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. It's not a live. It's not it's not live model, but yeah, the glass would stay where the lettering is.
Yeah.
In either option.
Shaun, do you have a rendering of what the fireplace wall would look like if there were no surround and no casework, just brick behind the fireplace opening? What would that look like?
I do not have a rendering, but I think we can turn that stuff off and render it pretty easily.
I think this is the tile you guys were looking at.
Thank you, Eric. That's really nice.
I think maybe the S on the back is maybe a 5.
I wrote that S or 5.
But it's convenient. I can wander around and hide behind it. It's camouflage. Nobody will see me.
Eric,
Okay, so I stepped out for.
Shaun, do you have a rendering of the fireplace with tile but no casework?
I do not. I don't have one, but I wrote it down. I
Okay.
think we can hide the casework and get that over to you.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see a rendering without the casework and without the surround. just the brick and the fireplace opening.
You have to put something around it, Cal.
Yeah,
You can't-
yeah.
Well, maybe
So-
so, but I'd like to see it without.
I guess I'm confused at this, what you're looking for on the second option.
A brick wall behind the fireplace, and that's all.
We can't do that
Okay, why not?
because that's not legal. We have to have a surround around the fireplace.
It's
Okay.
gotta be a fire rated enclosure.
Yeah.
They had a drywall and not combustible studs.
Oh, and does the surround have to be as tall as it is here?
It doesn't, but the flue would be exposed then. So there's a big metal pipe coming out of the top of the fireplace.
Okay, all
And
right.
that's what the top part is hiding.
Yeah, I think from the top of the fireplace, I think it comes out like 3 or 4 foot above the fireplace. I'd have to
Okay.
double check the manufacturer's got different requirements. And this, because you have a power ventilator, there'd be a piece of flexible piping.
Yes. Mhm.
That,
Right, the firebox is doing two things. One's it's hiding a lot of things that aren't the best looking. We can make them look good, but you'd spend money making them look good.
Yeah, okay.
And we have to surround the fireplace box with a fire rated enclosure, which is
Okay.
what it's doing. So we can turn the casework off, no problem, but I have to surround it with something.
Well, you don't have to bother then, because what's bothering me is not the casework. What's bothering me is the starkness of that surround. But maybe if we were using a material that wasn't quite that bright.
See, Cal, I
There's
disagree
something
with
about
you
the
on
framework.
that one. I think that tile in that light shade really makes it pop and it gives it a real presence. I think it's very much in fitting with the style of the building, which is very non-traditional, very mid-century modern. And
Yeah.
I think, this rendering that I'm looking at right now is very appealing and very welcoming and warm to me.
But it's not the same tile that Kathy and I were looking at yesterday, is it?
It is, but I mean,
I
I'm
think it
sorry,
is.
I'm a bit limited by the program and how it renders. We can keep kind of doing revisions. I'm not sure how it's showing up on your screen, but it's probably not as white.
Yeah, Eric, hold up the tile again, because you can see there's like a flow of subtle coloring. Is Eric there?
You're,
Yep.
Cal, you're on an iPad, right? So you're looking at a pretty small image.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can
I
see
know-
what- there's more going on.
Sean, maybe if you
there.
could stop the screen share for a moment.
Absolutely. Let me.
Okay,
figure out-
now, there, it went away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Here.
There it is. Okay, that's better.
yeah.
So that was the intention of what we tried to render, and we, keep tweaking it to the best we can.
Okay, that does not look nearly as white as what is shown on the rendering. So that's good.
And it really does look like marble. It's I don't know if striated is the correct word, but there's
Yeah,
several
it's-
layers of interest right there and shading. I think that's pretty.
I
That
do
is
too.
pretty. Okay,
Okay.
thank you, Eric.
Always good to be useful. Okay, so how do I unspotlight myself now?
You don't want to be the
I
focal
seem to
point.
have lost any convenient windows.
I can try sharing my screen. That might reset it.
Okay.
Here we go.
So I've got a good list going on here of some things. I mean, in general, just so you guys know, probably need about 1 week overall to finish the documents, just in terms of schedule. Once I've got the first choices on the finishes. That was really what we're looking for. I'll contact KI about the swing door. I'll get you a rendering without the casework on either side. So I think kind of just understanding, how the library would like to proceed, but we're pretty ready to kind of wrap things up if we need to. If that's the direction given, we can get things going pretty quick.
That's great news.
So when you say a week, do you mean that we could meet again next Thursday, or that we should look to do sometime early next week after?
I have availability next week. If I think it's dependent on how, you've indicated that you need to meet with the Building and Grounds Committee to talk about some of these options some more. I think as soon as you tell me that you're ready and you have a plan, I need about a week from that point to just finalize the documents and get them to Jason.
Got it.
And then at that point, Jason would start the going out for bids at that point?
That's correct. That's correct.
And refresh my memory, then how does that, could you give me just a very quick estimates to?
Yeah, typically we give with a project like this, we give the contractors about 2 weeks to get through pricing, give us a chance to procure all the pricing. We need to evaluate scope review, and then so the overall quote unquote buyout would be probably about 3 weeks is what we're anticipating.
Okay.
And then the long lead time items are going to be your fireplace. So we'll have to get that ordered, and then they'll tell us when that's going to ship. And the glass door, or whatever, the wall.
Yeah, sliding door.
That's last time we checked with them, which was a couple weeks ago, that was an 8-week lead time. So when we place the order, it's 8 weeks from when the order is placed.
Mm-hmm.
Shaun, is that for the swing door as well as the slide door?
It did. When I asked him, it was for the slide door. So when I get revised pricing from them, and when I request it, I'll also ask a revised, lead time on their product.
Do you have any feel for availability on the fireplace?
I'll check. I'll confirm availability with the power of another. I think the fireplace itself is relatively available in the I want to say 3 to 4 week. I need to check on the power ventilator and what other accessories we need to procure. So I can definitely get that though.
Is the fireplace opening going to look just like it looks in this rendering?
This rendering is really washed out around the fireplace. There is a grill here, which I don't think is very visible. I could go back to a previous PowerPoint slide and show you the one that I think that you guys. I don't think it'll look like what it's in. I think this is wrong.
Are you doing the folio? Is it the folio face you're doing? I think I got a brochure.
Yeah, I have to. It seemed that in the rendering, some of the finishes washed out a little bit. So this is I'll try to make this bigger. I think we were basically one of these two was where we were hoping to be.
Well, which?
Well, so we're going to specify a fireplace, and they're going to give us the information to pick. We would probably specify the folio because I think that was the preferred one.
Not to me, it isn't.
Okay.
What do you prefer, Cal?
Is Is it between the folio and the one above it, or is it between all of them?
Any of these that you want, we can do.
Okay. Kathy, what do you think of Chateau?
It's very nice.
And what do you think of having a little more curviness to it, like
I'll try to make it
either
easier.
Galleria or Chateau Forge?
I prefer either of those. I don't really like the grill work on Chateau.
Okay, yeah, it's a little too much.
Yeah. And I do like the curve. I mean, that's
Yeah, I like the curve. I don't like that stark rectangle look to it. So,
Now, once again, I disagree. I think that the rectangular nature of it is, I think you might be introducing another design element if you go for any curves that you know, really the only thing in that whole room so far that has any curve in it at all is the light fixture. This is, it's supposed to be a, you know, I think it's supposed to be a very clean, simple, modern look. That's just my opinion. So.
see that Halston is available in black, new bronze, or graphite. Graphite is kind of grayish looking, I think. Well, I would like to see if you could do a picture of the Chateau Forge, because I would like to see what those curves would look like in there. And then if they don't look so good, we could go back to the Halston, I guess. Okay. Kathy, what do you think about Iron Age if we didn't?
I mean, I get Janie's point. That keeps the linear, but there's a bit of a curve here and there, but it's very subtle.
Yeah.
On Chateau Forge, I don't get what those two poles are. Those two narrow.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. Well, maybe
is there a brochure you can drop off for Cal to take a look at?
Or a website, maybe?
Oh, that's an idea.
I know that there's a website. I don't know how easy it is to find some of this stuff, but I can forward on the website. I do not have a brochure. We do everything off the web.
Yeah.
Also, do we know whether all of these seem to be available in black, new bronze, or graphite? Well, some of them are hammered steel, but do we know whether we want it to be black or new bronze or graphite? I don't think we want it graphite, but would we want it new bronze rather than black?
That was not discussed.
No, we've been showing it in black. Traditionally, the bronze, I don't know if there's a lot of bronze in your building.
No, there's not a lot of bronze in the building. So I guess we have to stick, well, graphite, what is graphite? Is it like kind of a shiny gray?
It's like a charcoal color.
Okay, maybe a charcoal color would be better than this stark black. I don't know.
There's a lot of gray in the brick.
So you think that might blend in better, huh?
Well, I don't know. I'm gonna have to see that. And often there's not a lot of difference between black and graphite.
True. Yeah.
Shaun,
Okay.
in the last rendering you showed, there was a frame around the glass wall that was black.
Yep.
Yeah.
We can
And
do that
then-
in any color.
Okay.
You mean the frame around that doorway? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So just in my mind, it kind of connected the two.
I agree, Bonnie. I think it pulls it in very, and also the lighter wall then goes better with the surround. It all kind of flows together.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Okay,
have some
so-
existing black storefront in the building, so that's one of the reasons we picked it, to kind of complement what you already have.
Okay, can you show the fireplaces again, the 6 fireplaces?
There is a distributor not too far from our shop in Elgin as well. So if you did want a brochure, I'd be happy to get one and send it. But also, they do have a few of these faces at that facility as well. So maybe if you wanted to see it in person.
You know, it might be helpful to show slide number 9 there. I'm looking at your slides on the side. I don't know if that would be.
These are not all the same fireplace manufacturer.
Right,
So,
but you get the same idea of what the framing looks like.
yeah, this is,
Oh, yeah.
most of these are just plain. This is probably closer to, I think this is that Halston.
Yeah, that's
All
that's
right.
not too bad. Show that again. That's not too bad. You
And
don't
that-
have one, you don't have a picture of one with the curve, do you?
No.
And there's,
I like the linear look of that. But it breaks up just a black box.
Yeah, yeah, see, my objection was it looked in the original picture, it looked like it was just a black box there.
Yeah.
But that helps.
Once again, having that detail makes it look like ye old blacksmith shop.
Yeah.
Do we want that? Do we want it to
Well,
look
not
like?
me, not me, but if that's what you want, I mean, you know, but I'm just trying to hold out for a very clean, modern, contemporary look, I guess.
Shaun, are the faces kind of, I don't want to say interchangeable, but is there some, I know like the clean face is different than like the folio, but I think they pretty much kind of mount the same, don't they?
My understanding is you get to pick the face that you want. And I don't think that that's a huge difference. I don't know if there's any cost difference with, you know, like a clean face versus like a chateau. I mean, there's more metalwork here. I would think there might be a price change, but
Yeah, I know the clean face is like the clean face, and I did kind of when I was researching the budget, I did stop by that fireplace distributor just to get some intel and some information and approximate pricing on the material. And yeah, it's negligible, but there is you know, a couple $100 difference between some of the faces. I haven't checked any of the top row. Just a clean face and a folio.
Okay.
here's a, I don't know if this comes through very well. I'll try to zoom in a little bit. So this might be what you were looking at with the
Oh, yeah.
arched in the sides. These are just some images from their website.
Yeah, I think that might have been the one that Kathy was wondering what the
Side thing.
lines were on the side.
And then, does that one,
Sorry, I can go back if I'm going too fast.
no, no,
No, that- looking good.
So there's new bronze and graphite and black, and graphite is just kind of a charcoal color versus black.
Yeah,
It's a little
It's usually
lighter.
pretty much a matte finish, isn't it?
I think, I don't know if it would have a matte finish, but I would assume. We can get samples of these, I think, at some point. New bronze is basically bronze.
I wonder if new bronze would go better with the, well, you don't see the brick next to the fireplace anyway, so I guess it wouldn't
That's
make any
right,
difference.
that's right. Oh, here's,
there you
here
go.
they are. Okay, here they are.
Oh, here we go.
And I can send a link to this. This is a PDF from their website. Hey, Jason,
Yes, sir.
we were specifying this one, I believe, weren't we?
Which one?
The Provident. Notice the options for Provident. There aren't any. So we probably have to go up to the Escape version if we want to have all these screen options.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, can you scroll down? Because I think what's below these, the transitional or modern, is,
Mhm.
worth looking at too.
Yeah, the Halston arch has that arch in it.
Available black, bronze, or graphite.
Yeah, these are just interiors. So I'll zoom out. Maybe I can get them all on one screen.
Ooh, you're good.
Eric, are you there somewhere?
I'm here.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe Cal could make an appointment with you and come into the library and sit in the room and look at these images on the laptop and imagine the shape sort of, and maybe that would help her.
Happy to do that.
Well, I like the Halston arch because it's not too arched, but it relieves that linear look.
Yeah.
You want to soften it a little bit, yeah.
Yes.
Now actually, I think that's a nice, once again, my opinion here, but that's a nice compromise between
Yeah.
just the very stark modern look and just a little bit of something to soften it.
Yeah. The Chateau Forge is too busy.
Yes,
I think,
yes.
I don't think I need to go into the library look. I think I would like the Halston arch if we can get that.
I second the Halston arch.
I heard.
Me too.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the Halston arch is approved.
Okay.
And do we want it in black?
Okay.
I assume we
Yeah,
wanted it.
I would say, to because it is such a small space to keep everything black, if we're going to do the, if the frame around the glass will be black, it makes sense to make the
Yeah,
fireplace surround.
Yeah, I think that looks very nice.
And,
And there's a lot,
and it
there's a
looks
lot of
like,
black in the carpet, so it'll pick that up. I think
that's right. There
Yeah.
is a lot of black on the carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job.
Is it safe to say that if black is out of stock and it's, I don't know, weeks behind graphite, we would be okay with graphite?
Yeah, I would think we could go with graphite.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree black would be preferred, but if it means waiting 3 months,
Sure. Yeah, they're pretty close.
all right.
Goodness gracious.
Okay. So I'm going to propose that we wrap things up here for today because we're getting close to the 3-hour mark for our meeting. And that is a
Okay.
long meeting.
yes.
We have a 7 o'clock finance committee, Eric.
Well, I
Yeah.
will be happy to.
I have,
move to adjourn and with thanks to our EA guys, Shaun and Jason, for once again, the generous sharing of your time and efforts.
I second the move to adjourn.
Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I-
All right, thank you very much for your help, Shaun and Jason. You've been very helpful and very patient with us. We
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Have a good
I'm
night.
gonna turn on my fireplace.
Warmest day of the year.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Take
Aye.
care.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Take care.